A lot of you know I am a Christian and I have my strong beliefs. You also know, just from watching a couple of Coyote Rants, is that I'm not afraid to use profanity. So, of course, a lot of you can just point the finger at me and just say, you can't be swearing, you're not a true believer. My language comes straight from the game of ice hockey. Ever since I stepped into a hockey team's locker room and started playing in serious leagues, I was exposed to some of the most vulgar phrases you can imagine. And because I was enrolled in a Christian school at the time, you can imagine the culture shock. So it rubbed off on me. And to quote Paul Newman, I swore very little in real life before the movie Slapshot. There's a hangover from characters sometimes, and there are things that stick. Since Slapshot, my language is right out of the locker room. My personal beliefs have nothing to do with the use of some profanity in these rants. It's merely me saying what's on my mind. There's people in my church went away from the chapel who are not afraid of using more colorful language sometimes in front of people they trust and are close to. We know their spiritual beliefs remain strong regardless. I'm aware the Bible discourages the use of profanity, and when I do use it, I'm not proud of it. But like I said before, it'll happen sometimes, especially in the heat of a moment during a game. Latest example was during a game I was coaching just a couple days ago as of this recording. It's a really close game, we're down 2-1 and we're having a really big chance to tie this game. And a loose puck is right in front of the net, and the goalie's laying down and there's an open net right behind the goalie, and one of my players has a chance to knock the rebound in. But because he sucked at shooting, the shot went through the crease and wide of the net. So you could literally see me jumping up and going. Now, as an adult even, I've been in the locker room with some guys who use the F word every other word. Hey man, I was effing, going to effing this place, and effing, I bought some effing beer, and effing, and even I got sick of that. But let's face it, we're a culture of cynics, profanity's part of our culture, and whether you like it or not, it's gonna happen. And it's actually hard not to slip an occasional swear word. A lot of movies and songs make swearing sound cool when it's even harder to avoid. Some people have said there are no bad words, only bad intentions. And I think that's true. Do we always need to say these words? No. You'll have a lot of Christians that will use mock profanity phrases like, shut the front door. We know what you're saying. Doesn't matter if you're using different words. I know what you're saying, so it's almost pointless. And I think there are times when it actually is appropriate to be saying it, and when it's not. I usually don't use profanity around people I don't know that well, or if I'm with a bunch of my church buddies when we're doing a mission trip or such. Usually I wait for someone else to slip one before I say, that's okay, I'm guilty of it too. I mean, a bunch of my church friends are Raiders fans. You can't tell me they don't occasionally slip their tongue. But because it's during a time when it isn't necessary, I'll keep my mouth clean and actually stop myself from swearing. One time I bought a bunch of church friends with a group of kids to camp out and watch the Perseid meteor shower last August. And because I'm the one with the telescope who obviously knows what I'm talking about with astronomy, even bystanders and strangers at the campsite often overheard me and came over to ask questions. One guy was like, when's this effing meteor shower gonna happen? When the F is it happening tonight? Why is it effing happening? Why do comets lose their effing mass? Why the F won't they hit the ground? When is the effing peak of this meteor shower? I'm not exaggerating. That's how this guy talked. And being the astronomer I am, I did answer all of his questions without even saying a single profane word back. And I also didn't say one back because I didn't want the kids and the church buddies that we brought out there to hear me swear, because it wasn't necessary for me to. Now, do you want to know a time when I think swearing is absolutely appropriate? I'm going to tell you a little story involving my late brother. My late brother was a born-again Christian in the last few years of his life. He went to Houston, Texas with my mom and dad to report for being put on an experimental drug for the cancer that he had been battling at that point for 11 years. But when he got there, unfortunately, he was given really bad news that the cancer had been spreading all over his body, well into his lungs. So when he called his wife on the phone, he literally said, "It's all over me, it's all over me, it's fucking all over me." 5 months later, I was in the very car ride that we took to go to the hospital in Santa Monica where the UCLA cancer specialist was. Normally it's an hour drive from where we were, but because of traffic, it delayed us by almost an hour. And he was in the car swearing up a storm while I sat behind him trying to calm him down. But he was in so much pain, it was understandable. That, my friends, is quite possibly the only time a born again Christian can get away with using obscenities in his vocabulary. And I'm sure God forgave him when he passed away a week later after that car trip. In the meantime, I don't judge people on what they say because I'm guilty of the same things. I myself am not a hypocrite, and I'm 100% true to who I am and who I believe in. If you're going to judge me because I have used profanity in Coyote Rants, go look up John 8:7. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone.